The temperature inside the HAB module had dropped to minus 40 degrees Celsius when James realized the heating system had failed completely. His breath crystallized in the air, forming tiny ice particles that drifted like snow in the reduced gravity of Europa's surfaceility. "Aliana," he called through chattering teeth, his voice barely above a whisper. "The backup generators are offline too." Aliana emerged from the equipment bay, her bioluminescent skin patterns pulsing with what James had learned to recognize as concern. She was Xanthari, one of the few alien species humanity had encountered in their expansion beyond the solar system. Her tall, slender frame moved with fluid grace despite the cold that was rapidly becoming lethal to James. "Your core temperature has dropped 2 degrees in the last 15 minutes, she said, her translator converting her melodic native language into crisp English. "At this rate, you will experience severe hypothermia within the hour." James tried to nod, but his muscles were already stiffening. The mission to Europa had been going perfectly until the solar flare knocked out their primary systems. Now, stranded on Jupiter's frozen moon with the repair shuttle not due for another 36 hours, he was facing a very real possibility of freezing to death. "The emergency thermal suits," he managed to say, stumbling toward the storage locker. "Already checked," Aliana replied, catching him before he fell. Her body temperature registered at nearly 50 degrees Celsius, comfortable for her species, potentially life-saving for him. The radiation from the flare corrupted the heating elements. "They're useless." James's vision began to blur at the edges. His fingers had gone completely numb despite the insulated gloves. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had survived the journey through the asteroid belt, navigated the treacherous radiation zones around Jupiter, and established the first permanent human-alien research station on Europa, only to die from something as mundane as equipment failure. "There is one option," Aliana said slowly, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to what James thought might be embarrassment. "My species evolved on a world with extreme temperature fluctuations. Our bodies can regulate heat with remarkable efficiency. Xanthari traditionally share body warmth during cold cycles." James's analytical mind, even in its hypothermic state, understood immediately. "You want to share body heat?" "Not want, James. Need. Your survival depends on it." She paused, her large, opalescent eyes meeting his. "Get in my bed, human." "You'll freeze without me." Under any other circumstances, James would have laughed at the absurdity. He and Aliana had been research partners for 6 months, maintaining professional boundaries despite the cramped quarters and isolation. The cultural differences between their species had always seemed insurmountable. Xanthari formed communal sleeping clusters on their homeworld, while humans valued personal space intensely, but survival had a way of making such concerns irrelevant. "Okay," he whispered. Too cold to argue, too cold to care about propriety, Aliana guided him to her quarters, which she had kept warmer than the rest of the facility to accommodate her higher thermal needs. Even here, the temperature was dropping steadily. Her sleeping platform was designed for her physiology larger than a human bed, with a gel-like surface that responded to body heat. "Remove the outer layers," she instructed. "Wet or frozen fabric will only accelerate heat loss." James's fingers fumbled with the fasteners of his thermal suit. Aliana helped him, her warm hands working with clinical efficiency. Soon he was down to his base layer, shivering so violently his teeth clacked together audibly. She had already removed her own outer garments, revealing the fascinating bioluminescent patterns that covered her entire body. In Xanthari culture, the display was not considered intimate, it was simply natural. She lay down on the sleeping platform and opened her arms. "Come," she said softly. James collapsed beside her, and she immediately wrapped herself around him. The warmth was instantaneous and overwhelming. Her body heat radiated through the thin fabric separating them, seeping into his frozen muscles. She pulled a thermal blanket over both of them, creating a cocoon of warmth. "Your heart rate is elevated," she observed, one hand resting against his chest where she could monitor his vital signs. "That's because I'm not dead yet," James muttered. though in truth, the contact was affecting him in ways that had nothing to do with survival. Despite the alien nature of her physiology, there was something undeniably intimate about being held this way. "You're attempting humor. That's a positive sign." Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed in a rhythm he'd learned meant amusement. "Your temperature is stabilizing?" They lay in silence for a while, James gradually thawing as Aliana's body worked like a living heater. He could feel her steady breathing, the slight vibration of her secondary heartbeat that maintained her species' remarkable thermal regulation. The fear of dying began to recede, replaced by a strange sense of peace. "On my world," Aliana said softly, "sharing warmth is how we show trust. The cold can be deadly, but isolation is worse. We survive together." "We don't really do that on Earth," James admitted. "We're taught to be self-reliant, independent. And yet, you traveled millions of kilometers from your home to work with an alien species you barely understood. That requires a different kind of trust, does it not?" James considered this. She was right. Every day on this frozen moon, he trusted Aliana with his life in 100 small ways. This was just more direct. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For this. For not letting me freeze." Her arms tightened around him slightly. "We are partners, James. Your species and mine, we're both explorers. Both seeking to understand the universe. That makes us family in a way. And family doesn't let family freeze." Outside, Europa's frozen surface continued its eternal orbit around Jupiter. Inside, two beings from worlds impossibly far apart shared warmth in the darkness, learning that survival and perhaps something more could bridge any distance. When the rescue shuttle arrived 36 hours later, they were still together, maintaining the body heat that had kept James alive. The repair team found them sleeping peacefully, Aliana's bioluminescent patterns casting soft light in the cold darkness. It was, James would later reflect, the moment he understood that the universe was vast and strange. But warmth, whether from a star or from another being, was universal. End.